Capcom Unity, hello! This is Gregoman reporting live from E3 2012. I am joined today by Andrew Szymanski, the producer of upcoming Lost Planet 3, as well as the director, Matt Sophos. And we're going to show off the latest demo, which I think you will find quite rad. Also off camera is Brelston, who's operating the chat. There's his hand. So yeah, we're going to show this demo. If you guys have questions, be sure to bring them to the live chat. And you guys have any words to start this off?
Sure. Well, a lot of people might have seen the coverage coming out of Captivate where we announced the game, and also some of the preview coverage we had at the end of May. And what we're going to be showing today is actually what we showed for those previews. So we have a nice, meaty, about 30-minute long demo. So you guys are going to get a taste of pretty much all the elements that go into LP3. The characters, the setting, the rig, Jim, the main character, and everything. So I think it'll be a really nice slice of what the game's going to offer.
Excellent. Well, why don't we dive in? There we go.
I never was a greedy man. Didn't care much about money. Son of a... Whoa, what the hell? I came to realize not caring about money was a luxury for those who had it. So here I am, snatching up every contract I can get. I figure the harder I work, the more I earn, the sooner I get to hold you both again. That's all I care about. I hear whispers the company's not telling us the whole truth about this block of ice, but I really don't give a damn.
You okay for audio, game audio?
There's work to be done here. That's what they're paying me for. First, I'm gonna get some shut-eye. I miss you both, sweetie.
Did I wake you up?
What gave you that idea?
Hangar's in lockdown. Another storm, Emperor class.
Again.
Hey, you know you got crew quarters on the base, right? You don't have to sleep in your rig all the time.
Mind telling me what you were doing to her?
Oh, check it. Dry-treated hypertensile kern retractors. I call it the Cockpit Express. You just clip in, give the line a tug, and shoot!
Just why would I want to launch myself at solid metal from 10 meters out?
Between the storms and the acrid, I would think you would appreciate the option. Plus, you said the climb was killing your knee.
Better that than a broken neck. Gail, she's my pig. You understand? She ain't your guinea pig.
Dude, kern retractors on your rig. You don't deserve me.
Non-aggressive indigenous creatures, huh? Look at that. You want me back out there? I'm on a chain gun on my rig.
You know my hands are tied. NVEC regulations.
Yes, don't weaponize the construction vehicles, but I mean in this
But
case...
nothing. I'm not gonna let you jeopardize my project on account of your nerve deficit.
Oh, please.
They call it hazard pay for a reason.
God damn, LaRoche. That is some love tap.
Ta gueule.
Hey, Jim, your rig ready to roll?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've been surveying an energy pocket. A big one out by Howling Pass. And LaRoche here is not playing nice with the wildlife. So, interested?
Well, no, I don't want to just snake a man's contract.
No, take it. Get yourself killed.
Not for at least double, I mean.
Done.
What?
Attention. Lockdown lifted.
Man, that's my cue.
Jim, listen, you know, the main generator's still toast and the T-energy processor's working overtime. I don't need to tell you that we really need this one.
Don't you worry.
Double? 200 credits say they eat his face.
You want double? Well, quit your whining and earn it.
And we are in the game.
Yeah, so we're going to start here in the hangar section. This is going to be your one of your core hub areas. And as we can see,
we're not due for another supply drop till late
pit
August.
Where the
You got
rig
any idea
is
the
being
resource
repaired. That's
gymnastics
LaRoche's rig. And this is an area where you can get rig upgrades, which adds new functionality to your rig. And there's also a lot of conversations that we can hear in the background that are going on. For the interest of time, we're going to skip this, but you'll be able to eavesdrop in conversations, be able to talk to people in the hangar, and get hints and clues and things like that. So there's definitely a sense of community and a sense of a lived-in feeling inside of the hangar. So we're going to take this elevator up here into the main hangar area, which is kind of the showcase for the base. And what we can see here, the concept here is basically it's a natural cave formation that the colonists have kind of built their base into. We'll pop out our job log here. You can see that we have to go talk to Gale to prep the rig. You go do that.
Jim's heading out, so let's prep the rig, people! Don't forget. One back in the ring. I know you like options.
So now you can see that we're in the rig, and now Gale's giving us some extra information. A couple of people may have picked up on the Gale character. It's actually the father of Wayne, who's the protagonist from LP1. So there's a lot of interesting connections between this and LP1, not necessarily directly because there's quite a few years in between, but there's a lot of cool hints back and forth.
I do gather that in some ways this is sort of a return to form for Lost Planet, sort of returning to a lot of what we knew about the first game.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of our core concepts was return to extreme conditions, which most people know the LP1. It was called Lost Planet Extreme Condition. It referred to the the snow and the ice on the planet and the very foreboding atmosphere. So we're trying to return to that, but it's also a return to sort of a more of a character-driven narrative.
Yeah.
In LP2 we did a lot of co-op play, which was I think an interesting direction for the series to go.
Yeah.
In terms of spreading out to new horizons, but a lot of the feedback we got was that people really wanted to feel like they were playing as somebody, that they had a character they could relate to.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that we're really going back to here. It doesn't mean we're not doing multiplayer. We are. We'll be talking about it more in the coming months, but we definitely have a good multiplayer suite.
Yeah, but it does seem like the story is very well fleshed out here. The characters are instantly likable, and they feel like people you've met before. Which is not...
We wanted Jim to feel like a guy that you could really relate to, that you wanted to root for. You are him, but you're also kind of experiencing his journey along with him, and that's something that we really felt was strong. Here we're seeing the rig has to break open these pistons. The rig that you're in, the utility rig, is not originally designed to be a weaponized unit. It's actually a construction vehicle that Jim uses to fulfill contracts on the planet. So we're actually, kind of teach the player how to use its functions for what they're originally intended for.
Yeah.
And then later on, when you get out in the wilderness, you have to fight the A-Crit. The player actually has to figure out how to improvise to use those functions to defeat the enemy.
Sort of pioneer times.
Exactly.
Is the utility rig supposed to be sort of a direct predecessor to the VSs, or is it just the idea that the world is full of this sort of robotic technology?
No, you're exactly right. Basically, you know, this is a prequel. It takes place quite a bit before Lost Planet 1. The idea being that these are the sort of the first colonists, or so they're told, to ever come to the planet. So it's in very much its natural rough state. It's very much a frontier kind of atmosphere, and we wanted the machines to reflect that. So it's the largest vehicle we've ever had in Lost Planet. And I'll pause for a second and let you see the message from Jim's wife.
Trash out every once in a while? That was terrible. Hey, darling. I can't believe it's been 6 months already. You'd think it would feel normal by now, but it doesn't. Especially not for Hank. He never falls asleep the way he did when you tuck him in. Turns out you have a magic touch. Go to book the devil. Speak of the devil. I gotta go, babe.
So that was just, you know, a really way to keep Jim, you know, anchored in with his world. He is here to try to earn, you know, hazard pay by doing all these contracts to send back to his wife and child, and that's something that we're constantly fleshing out over the course of the game as you send letters to her and you get letters back from her, video letters. Anyway, just to briefly finish up the point before, yes, the utility rig is basically a predecessor. What we thought is, you know, technology tends to miniaturize over time. You know, you start out with a Walkman, you end up with an iPod. So we thought, you know, the vital suits that are small and very maneuverable and heavily weaponized in Lost Planet 1 and 2, what would those look like in the past? And we decided that, you know, it would probably be a larger vehicle,
right.
and also would probably not be a weaponized vehicle. It would have started with civilian use.
Indeed.
So we're going to get out of the rig here pretty soon. You will be able to get in and out of the rig just about anywhere you want. There's a few areas where they're either too dangerous or too confined to be able to get in and out, but for the most part, just about anywhere you can get out. And we're going to go grab the part that Gale asked us to get earlier. When you give scrap to Gale, he uses it to upgrade your rig, so this is a great way to kind of show an example of, it's not a fully fleshed out side mission, it's more just kind of a bonus little trinket, but you will have a lot of side missions on the game. You'll have different mission givers that will give you different type of missions beyond, you know, the core story missions. So this is a way for us to kind of illustrate that there are things off of the beaten path. And as you can see, we have a real-time dynamic weather system that changes the weather on the planet based on, you know, storm conditions and things like that. So even if you're traversing a certain area and you may have gone there and come back again, for instance, it'll look very different because of the different weather conditions.
Wow. They truly are extreme conditions.
Yep, which we will see even further as we proceed on here, because we've got a storm brewing, and that's going to pose trouble for the rig if it gets too big.
I do love how fast it is getting in and out of the rig. You know, it doesn't sort of bog you down. You can switch on the fly.
Yeah, that's very important. So we can see we've had a major storm will come through that's actually frozen over the rig. So now Jim's got to get out. This is actually something that will happen dynamically during gameplay, depending on weather conditions. So, appearance of some of our acrid creatures. This is a new one called the Pack Hunter.
Put a little pressure on you.
Yeah. This is something called struggle mode. The key here is it's not just a QTE. You don't just tap buttons. You actually have to aim that reticle.
Yeah.
And it fights because you're struggling, so the reticle actually fights against you. And that was really important for us because we wanted to always keep the element of aiming in the gameplay. So whether you're shooting or whether you're stabbing, you want to keep that aiming element in there.
Well, I like it because it uses what you already know about how the game plays. It's not just this arbitrary thing that's thrown in. It's like you're still aiming and attacking.
And it's not one of those things where if I don't press a button in time, you know, I'm going to lose arbitrarily.
Right.
It's skill-based, which we felt was important. Now you can see Jim is fighting the Pack Hunters here, and you know, these are a new acrid type for LP3. For some of the acrid, we've gone away from the insect style to a more mammalian style. So we've got a better balance now of some insect-based ones and some mammalian-based ones. And
interesting.
We just wanted to show the kind of the ecosystem of the planet, the fact that, you know, there's a wide variety of different types of life forms on the planet. So these things hunt in packs. Their AI will circle and wait for a chance to strike.
Very happy to see the roll is still in.
Yeah,
sort of an integral part of Lost Planet.
The roll is in. You know, we've made some tweaks to the controls to make it a little bit easier for people that are used to playing, you know, different types of shooters.
Yeah.
The old Lost Planet games had some kind of unique control schemes.
Yeah.
We've kept a lot of the cool things in. You can even do the sort of floaty reticle from Lost Planet 1 if you want. That's an option. But we've also tried to streamline things a little bit to make it easy to pick up and play. So trying to find a good balance.
Yeah. So I assume what he's picking up there is T-energy?
That's correct.
Is what role does that play in this game? Is it similar to past Lost Planets, where it's kind of like your health?
It's a little different. You know, we really wanted to give the player the ability to, you know, not have to feel like they're constantly being pushed forward, like to give them the ability to explore. Mm-hmm. So it won't be used in that way. Before I continue there, I just want to note here that, you know, we just fought those pack hunters on foot. And one of the great things about the rig is it totally changes the paradigm. Yeah. So an enemy that was reasonably challenging on foot when you get in the rig is now basically a piece of cake. And this is one of the fun things to do, to turn the tables on your enemies.
Safety clamps. That's very satisfying.
So LaRoche is coming on with a couple of hints. So to finish answering your question real quick, the thermal energy that you gather, you can see this 199 here on the corner.
Yep.
That's actually your thermal energy count. Now, what happens is when you pick up thermal energy on foot and then come back into the rig, it deposits the thermal energy that Jim is carrying into the rig's tank. When you then take that back to base, you can trade it for upgrades, weapons, ammunition, things like that.
Very cool.
So it's now part of the game's economy. And the idea for that in the fiction of the game is that it's kind of a gold rush atmosphere.
Yeah.
All the colonists are here to mine this resource. It's like, you know, black gold, in orange gold in this case. So that is a very valuable resource. By taking it back to base, you know, you can basically, you'll get paid to do missions, but you also get additional payment from having lots of thermal energy. And that's going to be an important thing in the game, as we'll be talking about in the future.
That's very cool. You know, it's true. You know, the T energy was already seen as like this, pardon the pun, hot commodity in the past games, but it was just kind of like a health thing, or it powered some of your machinery. But it definitely makes sense that you'd be able to use it as a form of currency.
So we're going to grab the shotgun, which is always helpful to have. So this is an audio log, and you can get these over the course of the game, and they basically flesh out the backstories of various characters and things like that. So it's another way to experience the world.
Yeah.
So Jim's now at the mission he was given, which is to plant this thermal data post here, and he's going to do that, but he's going to get interrupted in that process. Somebody's a little mad.
If only you had that rig right about now.
Yes, exactly. So Jim's now going to have to fight this thing on foot, and just as in the previous games, the acrid cores, what we call cores, the weak spots, they glow orange to give you an idea where you're supposed to shoot it to, as you can see. This has got some on the joints here, and it's also got a big spot on the back. And so one of the things that you're going to have to do in order to defeat this is figure out how to access that core. That's a little.
You can also throw a grenade in its mouth.
Yeah. Now that's something that is actually something of a little trick the player would have to kind of figure out. But you can see here that once you've knocked that ice cap off the back, that you can then come through and you'll be able to hit that.
There's such a great, satisfying punch to the shotgun blast in this game. especially with the sort of T energy exploding out of their cores. Everything just feels really nice.
Well, we like that, thank you. Right now he's using the pistol, which is your starting weapon. You will always have it. It's a backup weapon. You can carry the pistol in 2 other weapons, and the pistol will never run out of ammo, so you're always guaranteed to have at least that.
Cool.
Taking a couple of hits here. Got this nice blast.
Nice. Now what?
Another grenade to the mouth.
He's just asking for it. With them.
Probably close up to finish him off. Now Matt, who's playing here, of course, makes this look easy, but this is a boss encounter. So on average in playtests, we've got about 2 or 3 deaths before you complete it the first time.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that, Lost Planet is known for having big creatures. This is by no means the biggest in the game, but we want to keep those kind of intense boss battles intact. So now we've actually are going to be able to go and complete our mission objective, which was to plant this thermal post to access this pocket of thermal energy. This is the big twist in the demo, as it were. Jim and the other colonists have been told that they're the first humans to ever arrive on the planet. Now, when he planted this thermal post here, it calls it thermal melt, which is a giant kind of outpouring of energy. That melted away about 50 years worth of ice, and now he's found out that there's this old structure here that's not supposed to be there. And now he's going to be going inside to investigate. Inside the abandoned base here, there's been a lot of comparisons with Dead Space and other games, and the really important thing to mention here is for Lost Planet 3 is that we see these sequences here as being kind of a change of pace.
Right.
Our game is very much about the vast landscapes and the balls to the wall kind of shooting and the rig experiences that we've already seen so far in the demo.
Yeah.
But personally, as gamers, we ourselves like to have a lot of variety. We like to, have fast pacing followed by slow pacing. Some total action followed by more suspenseful type stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a way for us to kind of do that. Personally, I don't really classify this as a survival horror game. Jim, by the very nature of his environment, has to survive.
Right.
But for him, survival is not enough. He's got to carve out a niche for himself in a colony. He's got to provide for his wife and child. He's got to find out all these mysteries. He's got to interact with other characters. There's a whole cast of characters, that all have their own backstories and everything. So it's very much a cinematic style of game. What these sequences really do is provide a counterpoint to that by giving you some of the mystery and giving you some of the suspense.
And it really is gorgeous. It just feels very alive. But I gather that you're not really going for all-out scares necessarily. You're just, oh, he missed. You're just sort of creating a mood.
Yeah, this this is another struggle mode here. That's similar to what we saw earlier. Yeah, it's not about all-out scares. It's about put yourself in Jim's shoes.
Yeah.
Right? You're not only on a planet that's not Earth, that's unexplored. You don't know what's around the next corner, but you also have to figure out how to do your job and make it home alive.
Right.
So it's a very foreboding atmosphere no matter where he goes. But then finding these structures that aren't even supposed to exist, that he's been lied to about,
right?
You know, that causes a lot of trepidation. And then, you know, we also some people might notice all the animation sets are changed when you're inside.
Huh.
You know, he's much more methodical. He's not running flat out.
Yeah.
You know, he even makes faces of kind of looking around at the environment.
Wow.
The idea is to get you in Jim's shoes of I really don't want to be here, but I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know.
Things a man does for his family.
Exactly. So I would say that these, suspense sequences, if you want to call them that, probably I'd say they're about 20% of the game total.
Okay.
The rest are, the exterior sequences, the exploration, the battles, and then also the interaction in the bases with the other characters. So Jim's got to figure out how to get out of the base here, and he's got a mission objective now to find the generator, which he has to shut down. The generator's here. He's got to find the shutdown panel, which is up there on that ledge, because the base is in lockdown. There was an acrid infestation here. Who knows how long ago?
Wow.
And the whoever lived in this installation at that time basically barricaded himself in so the acres couldn't get out. And that's why you've got to shut down the generator to get out.
Huh.
Now that we've turned off the generator, we're going to go back out that door that we found earlier. This is another chance to show off combat with some of the leech enemies. Now these things are pretty weak one-on-one, but when they surround you in packs, they can actually be pretty overpowered.
Right.
They circle you, they've got jump attacks. And when Jim's health gets low enough, they will pounce and you'll get that the struggle mode. The whole point of the struggle mode is the enemies pounce on you when your health is low.
Oh, okay.
It's a way for you to fight back. And you also regenerate health more quickly if you're successful.
Oh, wow.
So it's a way to, basically instead of killing the player and having them reload.
Sort of like your last stand. Yeah. That's really cool. Nice dodge.
Alright, so now we've found the exit here. And I'll just talk over this one real quick, just to say that we've seen a couple of these little sequences, and these are actually playing over loads.
Oh, okay.
So one of the things that we really strive for here is always keep the player in the experience and always keep them rooted to Jim.
Yeah.
So even when you have hard loads from area to area, which we just can't get around, we play, these scenes, which they don't give you any hints or they're not part of the story per se, but what they do is give you an insight into Jim's character and his relationship with his family and everything. So we feel it's a great way to really show what Jim's all about.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's important to keep the player always there. You don't want to. I mean, you still have sort of that breathing room because you're just watching him, but it's not just like watching a blank screen and a load bar.
Exactly. All right, so we managed to make it back to our rig, but we've got some company.
Wow.
so this is going to give us a great chance to turn the tables, because this crab boss that we fought earlier on foot, which is reasonably difficult, now we're going to be able to take it out much easier with the rig. And then, you know, this shows off how, like I mentioned earlier, you can use the rig's attachments to do this. Nice. We've got the little tutorial segments in here just to kind of, this is for E3, of course, so people on the show floor will be able to know how to do things. I'm going to dip that in some butter. Heat it up.
Nice.
Now the great thing about this is we're going to defeat this using the rig, but you could also grab it, jump out, and shoot it if you wanted to while it was held down. So, the rig actually gives you a lot of variety. In this case, we're just going to go right straight in for the kill using the drill.
That's so violent. But yeah, I do love how you can just jump in and out of the rig. You know, you can try it on foot, and then if the going gets tough, you can swing up into that rig and clamp it.
Yep. So that in a nutshell is our E3 demo. Thanks to Matt for
excellent demonstrating. Yeah. So there you have it, guys. I'm very excited about this. If you have questions about the game in the chat, let us know. I think it's definitely a good sort of combination of elements that depart quite a bit from the series and elements that are a return to form in some ways. You see a lot of, like, the setting obviously is very reminiscent of the first game. You're hinting at some of the characters having connections to characters from the first game. Obviously it sounds like a multiplayer is coming back in a big way. But then obviously there's a lot more exposition than what we've seen in past games. Just some unique or more Western style ideas. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the initial discussion that you had about this game, like when you were trying to figure out what you wanted this to be?
Sure. Well, when we actually first started discussions a couple of months before LP2 came out. So the game was done and it was basically waiting for manufacturing. And so I sat down with Oguro-san, who is the franchise creative director who directed the first 2 Lost Planet games. And is heavily involved in this one as well. And we basically sat down and said, well, what do we want, before we even talk about, you know, specifics of getting started, what do we want, you know, Lost Planet 3 to be?
Right.
And it was at that point that, you know, we kind of decided we definitely wanted to be more character-driven. And Oguro-san was very keen on wanting to sort of go back to being more extreme. Because we're on Unity, I'll give you a little tidbit that not a lot of people know, which is that the very first prototype for Lost Planet 1, before they made Lost Planet 1, before they came out with it, it was actually an exploration-based prototype. It was originally for PS2. So basically, you know, it was about a character going out in the wilderness. He fought Acrid, but that was a secondary thing. His main thing was, you know, he was looking for resources. He was exploring. He was trying to find, you know, various areas in the environment. So Oguro-san was like, I want to go back to that. So in a sense, and so Oguro-san, a lot of the interviews say this was his original vision. What he means is this is what he wanted to do way back when.
Yeah.
And then when they went to make LP1 and it was on 360 and it was a new hardware generation, there was a lot of tech issues and things. They streamlined it down to being a more linear shooter.
Right.
But he had always kind of really wanted to include this element of exploration, survival, colonization, frontier nature, and we're finally being able to come back to that. So that's really exciting. After we kind of came up with that core concept, we talked to the Spark guys, really we were able to sit down with them, discuss the concept for the game. They had some thoughts, even independent. When we first said, hey, we want to sit down and talk about Last Planet, and I don't want to speak for and put words in Matt's mouth, but they had really kind of thought about what they wanted to do, just completely independent of that. And we got into a room, we sat down, and we said, hey, Capcom wants to do it in the past, and go back to extreme conditions with a strong protagonist. And they were like, well, guess what? Spark wants to go back and do it in the past, in extreme conditions and a strong protagonist. So it was really
everything kind of just came together.
Melding of the mind. So you made a really good point, which is we feel, and if we may be so bold that we're taking a lot of the classic elements of the game, and you've got Ogoro-san kind of championing. He's the guy who literally created Lost Planet in the first place. He's been championing all the those elements, but then we've also got Spark bringing their unique flavor to it. We've got a lot of team members, mostly here in LA, but also in Japan, who are all kind of jumping in and doing it. So it remains very much a Capcom game. It remains very much a Lost Planet game, but I personally feel that we're able to go into new areas that we haven't been able to do before because of the partnership and the collaboration.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, it sounds like, oddly enough, this is probably the most faithful rendition of Lost Planet to come about, based on its initial pitch back in the day.
Yeah, believe it or not. I mean, Lost Planet is sort of both a blessing and a curse, right? Because a lot of people like the first game, a lot of people like the second game, but the second game was very experimental.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, on the one hand, we have this strong franchise that we really want to see succeed, and we really want to see more stories in. But at the same time, for the gamers out there, we've kind of led them down multiple paths, right, in this franchise. So, in a sense, we're kind of, bringing them down another path again, but we also feel like we're sort of bringing it full circle, if you will.
Yeah.
By coming back to a lot of the basics that make the franchise what it is.
It's kind of like DMC, and you see this with a lot of trilogies or just series, that there's sort of this plight of the part 2, where they have to top part 1, or they have to do something different from part 1. So they tend to be very experimental and oftentimes quite different than part 1. And then by part 3, they've sort of figured out what the essence of the game is and how to sort of hone it and refine it. And from what we've seen so far, I think that's very much the case.
I've seen some questions about the flow of the game, like how open it is, or how the game, like the path is, like if it's open world or you're on missions.
Some questions about the some questions about the flow. I'm not sure if people could hear Brett talking just now. Some questions about the overall sort of flow or structure of the game. How open is it? How does it work?
Well, it uses what we call a hub and spoke system, which is there's some areas that act as sort of a hub that are rather large areas that then branch off into several other kind of connecting paths. So what you're going to find is I'll just go on record by saying it's not a true open world game. It's not a GTA. You can't it's not go anywhere, do anything anytime.
Sure.
But what it is you basically as you're playing throughout the game, you're constantly exploring, discovering new areas that then are branching off into other maps, other areas. Some of those you can access right off the bat. Some of them require upgrades. So when you upgrade your utility rig, you'll then be able to have the ability to, for instance, melt different types of ice, or use different methods to get to a higher area to access these new areas. So when you get new story missions, when you get new side missions, you're kind of going to constantly be unlocking new sections of the map, but you can then go and come as you please.
Very cool.
It's much more open and much more fluid and freeform than previous Lost Planet games.
Interesting.
Very much a point A to point B.
Right. That's very cool. And also, I think that sort of gives the player a greater sense of reward for their actions, when they're constantly getting new skills and unlocking new areas. Somehow Metroidian.
Yes. I mean, hey, who doesn't love that, right?
Right.
I noticed some people asking about the grappling hook, and we were kind of talking over it in the demo. But yes, the grappling hook is in there. You can use it in game. It's in both the single player and multiplayer.
Excellent.
The way you use it is a little bit different than LP2 because we didn't necessarily feel that having Jim be able to basically just, bounce around and anywhere in the environment worked with this presentation.
Right.
But yes, you will get the grappling hook earlier in the game and be able to use it. So.
Cool. Huh.
They say, want to bump me up a little bit?
Should be 2. No, it's 1. I'm sorry. Sorry about the sound, guys. They're talking about the bridge spin in LP1. I feel like that was actually a bug. I don't know.
You can grapple up and down. So you can grapple up to ledges, you can grapple down from ledges. And so it replicates most of the functionality. The main difference is the fact that you can't use it on any surface anywhere.
Okay.
If it's a flat surface, you're not going to be able to do that like LP1. If it's a vertically flat surface, you're going to need sort of a horizontal platform to be able to use the grapple.
Question about multiple playthroughs. If there's anything like second time through?
Any info on like a new game plus or like multiple playthroughs?
Well, I mean, it is a pretty robust campaign, and like I said, there's a lot of side missions and there's a lot of hidden content that are based on having certain upgrades, and there's collectibles and things like that. So it's certainly possible to do everything in one playthrough. I mean, I personally am a completionist, and I only ever have time to play through a game once, and I hate it when like you have to play through multiple times.
I'm the same way, yeah.
But if you wanted to like basically get the story, go through once, complete it, and then come back again and get the collectibles, and maybe look for some areas that you might have missed, that's certainly a possibility. You would have to be very thorough to get everything on the first playthrough. And then of course there's the multiplayer to last you. So I think we've got a pretty compelling package in terms of the amount of content.
Excellent. For people who are new to Lost Planet, is it gonna sort of fill them in? I mean, obviously this takes place before the first two games, so is it pretty easy to jump in even if you're new?
Yes, it doesn't require any past knowledge. We've got a lot of hints and little connections to particularly LP1. I already talked about Gale being in there. Gale eventually grows up to Father Wayne, who then gets frozen and then becomes the protagonist of LP1. And so we kind of give some hints at how that came about. And then we also saw Jim planting his thermal post. And when you're walking around in LP1 and LP2, the data posts are already there, and you basically go and you mash B or circle to open up the thermal post. So the idea being is Jim and guys like Jim in the past were actually the ones who went and planted them in the first place. And then the ones that you're activating in LP1 and LP2 are actually the ones that were planted in the past. So you don't have to know the previous games to be able to enjoy this. You really can just jump in, and it is chronologically the first one in the series.
Right.
But the more you know, the more little cool hints.
There's some little nods there for the fans of the previous games. That's cool. Little fan service for you.
About 5 minutes.
Okay. Can you speak to the length, the general length of the game? Is that
general length? Let's just say I don't think people will be disappointed. It's definitely longer than either of the first two games in the single player.
Wow.
I don't want to give an hour figure yet because we're still making it.
Right.
But it'll definitely be meatier than the first two LP games.
Excellent. Someone asking about the set pieces. We've already seen quite a few. It seems like that's definitely something that this has an abundance of, especially compared to the previous LP games.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, there's two types of set piece moments. There's the fully scripted, basically, Call of Duty style. You're sort of a observer in the proceedings kind of, and then there's the actual interactive one.
Yeah.
We have a couple of the former. Most of them take place either in cutscenes or in a similar type of scenario. But then, the ice crab fight we had here, a lot of the rig elements to me feel like set piece moments that are happening in game.
Yeah.
When you're going in there and the ice crab pops up and you have to fight it, to me that's a cool scenario. It's a cool environment. It's a cool enemy to fight. Unfortunately, not a lot I can talk about right now, but there'll be elements in the game where in-game you'll crest a ridge and see something, or you'll complete a mission and something will happen in-game, and you'll look at that and you'll be like, wow, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
It's an amazing moment that you're experiencing as part of Jim's...
Well, yeah, I mean, from what we've seen in the demo, it's almost every single moment there's something amazing to look at, especially with this sort of dynamic weather system, and just even that starting hub where you begin the whole demo, like, it's just, everything looks... it just has this great, design balance to it. It feels like a lived-in place.
Right. Well, it's really important for us to keep the themes of exploration and sort of struggle, if you will, and having to eke out an existence. And so we have a lot of cool cutscenes. There's a lot of cool interaction with characters and dialogue and things like that. But when you're actually out in the wilderness, we didn't want to funnel you down this like extremely linear path at all times.
Right.
So that was one of the key design decisions that went into the game.
Any character customization?
Character customization, that will be part of the discussion we'll have for multiplayer.
Okay.
But for single player, I mean, it's very much Jim's story. So you're going to be playing as Jim. He'll look a bit different as the game goes on, but you're basically playing as Jim. For multiplayer, you'll have some options.
Interesting.
I should probably break it to LP2 fans by saying you're not going to have the ridiculous amount of pure customization.
No serve bot head.
Yes. Because, I mean, one of the big things of LP2 was just sheer amount of content, right?
Yeah.
For us, because we have such a robust single player experience, and because multiplayer, is definitely an equal, component to that, we can't blow it out and go balls to the wall like LP2 did with that much. But I think you'll find a lot of cool things, both from inside of LP3, but also throughout the LP universe, of being able to have some interesting nods in multiplayer. And I've already probably said too much.
Cut it. The gunblade. One more cue, you guys. Got time for about one more.
Weapons are very important, obviously, and we have many weapons that are in that Jim can. So there are single-player unique weapons, there are multiplayer unique weapons, and then there's some that are shared with both. We have a big arsenal. What you saw in the demo is which was the pistol, which you start with, the assault rifle, and the shotgun. The assault rifle and the shotgun both have to buy. Okay. You do that by getting thermal energy. And then actually, here at E3, you'll see it in the coverage from the press later from the show, but we're actually showing a new weapon, which is the hunting rifle, which is a single-shot weapon that's basically a bolt-action, very powerful weapon. And that's just a sampling. So there'll be a lot of weapons there, and we've tried to not make direct connections, but sort of hint at how those weapons might have evolved. But what you'll see with the Lost Planet 3 weapons is because it is a prequel, that they're much closer to 21st century weapons than they are to LP2 weapons.
These are pioneer times.
Exactly. So a lot more actual shells, gunpowder.
Right. Well, very cool. Well, I definitely look forward to seeing more, and thank you guys so much for being here today. It looks great. I will be showing this off again later in the stream, actually on Thursday. So stay tuned, guys, or tell your friends if they missed this stream. And yeah, stay tuned for more info in the coming months.
Thank you so much.